Thank you very much.
Development is not just about economic growth. It's about creating opportunities for people to live fulfilling lives. Aid is not a charity. It's an investment in the future of humanity. Good day, Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, my co-debaters, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow students. My name is Favour Adenuga, a representative of Government Secondary School Joti Alhaji. Here to propose a motion which states should developed nation increase financial aid to underdeveloped nations? Of course, it's a resounding yes. Developed nations should increase financial aid to underdeveloped nations for a multitude of interconnected reasons, which we have primarily centered around global stability. We have to talk about globalization, ethical responsibility, and environmental stability. As Nelson Mandela said, and I quote, the greatest glory is living life, not in never falling, but rising every time we fall, by helping others and expecting assistance, because sustainable development is the pathway we want for all. However, some may argue that even with financial aid can create dependency and be useful, fail to address both causes of poverty. But I tell you today that this is not possible. When the nation assists in increasing financial aid for underdeveloped nations, it will really help. Now, the world we see today is an interconnected system. What affects one area ultimately has repercussions elsewhere. Developing nations often grapple with issues like poverty, disease, lack of infrastructure, can become breeding ground for instability and can lead to what we call conflict, mass migration, and other issues that sprawl over international borders, impacting even in most developed nations. So, now, Mahatma Gandhi said, and I quote, development is about transforming life, not just about economic growth. Development aid is a powerful tool for reducing poverty and promoting economic growth. Increasing financial support is not just attractive, it's an investment in the global stability and security. Increasing financial aid can help assist developing nations. Increasing financial aid can help assist developing nations, improving living conditions that bring instability. Let me tell you something today. We make a life by what we get, but guess what? We make a living by what we keep. Mr. Friedman once said, and I quote, foreign aid is the method of sharing the wealth of the rich with the poor. Aid provided public can help create a more stable and global environment. Well, this in turn allows for a better situation for everyone, reducing international tension and conflict. According to Peter Drucker, and I quote, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Trying to develop a nation prosper, the whole world, yes, I mean the whole world prospers in tandem. There is no us versus them dynamics now, but rather, we all are part of a complex ecosystem. Now, let's talk about ethical obligation. Many developed nations achieve their current economic status through processes that exploit resources and at times give up from what are now developing nations. This historical legacy creates a moral obligation to address existing inequality. However, my opponents may still argue that increasing development, including financial aid, can lead to debt burden for recipient countries, potentially hindering their economic development. But I tell you today that these are not natural state of affairs, but rather a man-made one. A product of human activity and decision-making. Take this from me today. Aids are not loans. I repeat, aids are not loans. Your mentality determines your ability and your reality. Increasing financial aid can serve as a node of preparation any developing nation to recover from past injustice and build a more equitable society. As Professor Oye once said, and I quote, increasing financial aid, yes, it's a necessary evil, but it should be used to create a more stable and global environment. Increasing financial support can help underdeveloped nations today. This is critical for both nations and national insecurity. Take Nigeria for instance. Yes. Since the Nigerian independence in 1960, foreign aid has been seen as a beacon of hope, a source of funding for developing nations for their overall progress over the years. Increasing financial support can secure and help most African countries from the cold depths of poverty and underdevelopment. Studying here today, there is nothing, I repeat, there is nothing my opponent to tell me that I will be swayed away. However, this guy has a benevolent gesture. My opponent may say, increasing foreign aid is a means of foreign power. Thank you.
Good day, Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, my accurate timekeeper, my co-debaters, my able vice principal, and my fellow students. My name is Odini Adesolagio, and I'm here to oppose the notion, should developed nations increase financial aid to the developed nation? First of all, let's begin. What's a developed nation? A developed nation is any nation that is financially, politically, economically stable. While on the other hand, an underdeveloped nation is a nation that is not politically, socially, economically, and financially stable. Financially, this is the monetary assistance which is passed from one country to another, and it can also be passed to the IMF, International Monetary Fund. To properly oppose this motion, I and my colleagues have prepared some points that won't throw you off balancing coefficient, but keep your mind on truth, which is that they should not, or one of which is over-dependency. Ogonba Lawrence K said, and I quote, if you can't destroy something from outside, destroy from inside. Any developed nation receiving financial aid from a developed nation is doing nothing but destroy themselves economically. Because when humans receive a steady flow of income, they tend to feel over-relaxed and over-dependent of that flow of income. Do you know that once the value of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable? Nigeria was a victim of this. In the year 1990 to 2024, under the reign of His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, so much increase in financial aid was given to Nigeria, but it was misused to the point that Nigeria is only known as a developing country. We are only exceeded from a developing country to a developed country. Why? Because we are too dependent. And then when this increase in financial aid comes constantly, we tend to think that what if this flow stops? Hence the need for corruption. Every man for himself, they may say, which is not necessary. Once corruption comes in, corruption destroys a man economically. Corruption destroys a country economically and financially. How? I'll explain on my next point. Loss of hard work. When humans receive a steady flow of money, they don't feel this urge to, work hard. Take, for example, the struggles. Aliko Dangote, he didn't think of the name that his grandfather Aliko Dangote had made for himself, yet he struggled in hard work. Now, everywhere you go, you see a Dangote product line by side. Am I correct, my audience? Now, his name was only made for him through his struggles. If he hadn't struggled to make a name for himself, if he had relaxed like his father did, he wouldn't have made his name for himself. Let's take for example, do you know that research has shown that human beings work and think faster and better under pressure? If human beings are pressurized, their brains think better and think of better solutions. If these developed countries continue giving us financial aid, how do you think that we will ever be stressed to think for ourselves? How do you think that we'll ever be put under pressure to work for ourselves? Take, for example, Nigeria. We are so used to getting loans from many countries that now we no longer work on ourselves. We no longer work on the educational sector. Take, for instance, in some classes, no fans, no chairs, nothing, because we are so dependent on this foreign aid. As students, are we not victims of this? Because of this over-dependency in this foreign aid, Nigeria doesn't have the ability to think for themselves, think of better solutions, thereby wasting youth power, wasting all the economic things that we have, and even taking loans. And let me say, my opponent said that some of this financial aid may be free. Not all financial aid are free. Some financial aid, they come in form of loans, while others in form of grants. One of these loans, Nigeria, we are owing China over $20 billion, who then give them the right to come into our country that is blessed, a country that is the giant of Africa, and come and mine our natural resources. We utilize it and then we buy the refined product at a higher price. Can you imagine such a thing? Because we are too dependent on the foreign aid. We don't really work for ourselves, and it's causing what they call high immigration rates. Many youths, nobody wants to be at the receiving end. Does anybody in my audience wants to live a poor life? Nobody. Take for example, if you are given a chance to go to the United States of America, wouldn't you accept? What do you call it? You call it Japan. Am I correct? Is it not correct? Because most of these developed countries, they give their citizens many things that their citizens will want to get. While these underdeveloped countries, we don't give ourselves the things that we need. Our government doesn't give us the things that we need. Thereby causing a high rate of immigration. And many of our youths, many of our people, they go over there, helping them develop their country, while our country means a developing nation. Nigeria has not exceeded from the name of a developing nation. Why don't we work better? Step from this over-dependency, step away from increasing foreign aid, and work for ourselves to make Nigeria a better country. Wouldn't it be nice if Nigeria was to be called a developed country, when you be hearing countries like China, the USA, wouldn't it be nice if you hear Nigeria as the giant of Africa there? With this point, I have been able to convince you and not to confuse you. Thank you.
Starting on the existing protocol, good day once again. My name is David Belete, and I'm here to propose a motion which states should developed nations increase financial aid to underdeveloped nations. Developed nations are countries that advance in technology, education, health, and economic stability, like the United States of America, Japan, and the United Kingdom. Underdeveloped nations are countries that are struggling with poor infrastructure, unstable economics, and low industrial growth. Most African nations belong to this category, excluding Nigeria. And I would like to state clearly that Nigeria is not an underdeveloped nation, but a developing nation, because we are still a as an autonomous person once said, and I quote, true development is measured by how many people we lead, not how many we push forward. I strongly believe that when developed nations increase financial aid to underdeveloped nations, the world becomes more peaceful, productive, and united. And I would like to explain this through the following points. Let's begin with health. As the saying goes, a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. Financial aid improves the healthcare sector of underdeveloped nations. Improve the health, where developed countries support. Developed countries can support by donating medical equipment and building hospitals. Let's look back, think Ebola outbreak in West Africa. Countries like the United States, United Kingdom, and France sent millions of dollars in aid, and that quick response helped save countless of lives. In Nigeria, foreign states have supported organizations like the World Health Organization and UNICEF, which help fight diseases such as malaria, polio, and cholera. Through this support, Nigeria has made great progress in eradicating polio and improving child immunization rates. Let's be real. Diseases don't visas to travel. When citizens get quality health care at home, there's no need to travel abroad, which reduces the chances of spreading virus internationally. As my family once said, and I told you, it's health and true wealth, and not piece of gold and silver. However, my opponents here may argue that aid to the health sector is often mismanaged or diverted by corrupt officials. Though that concern is understandable. So the solution is not to stop aid, but to strengthen transparency and monetary systems. As an autonomous person once said, and I quote, it is how that is true. Sorry. As an autonomous person once said, and I quote, and an autonomous person once said, and I quote, the problem is not the health, the problem is how we handle the health. Let's talk about education. As Nelson Mandela once said, and I quote, education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change our world today. Developed nations can help underdeveloped and developed nations like Nigeria by funding scholarship, training teachers, and providing materials like technology and like United Kingdom Charity Scholarship and the United States School Rights Program. Many Nigerians have made great progress in eradicating. Many Nigerians have been able to travel abroad and to return home with skills that contribute to national development. In addition, agencies like UNESCO and UNICEF have supported Nigeria with teacher training, sports feeding programs, and education for girls, especially in the northern part of the country where access to education is limited. Imagine a Nigeria where schools are well equipped, teachers are well trained, and every child goes to school, learning, becoming what they are, even being recognized in the society. Imagine a future where schools are where teachers. Imagine a future where teachers. Imagine a future where schools. Imagine a future where foreign students can come to Nigeria to learn, just like Nigeria is traveling abroad today. It is not just like Nigeria is traveling abroad today.
Right.
But
yes, Standing on the already existing protocols, my name is Abraham Dodgy Chris, a proud and prestigious student of GDS Fekusi and Hadi. And I stand here today to support the motion which states that should developed nations increase financial aid to underdeveloped nations. While the intent behind increased financial aid may seem noble, I firmly believe it is not the most effective way to address developmental challenges faced by underdeveloped nations. In fact, increased financial aid can often do more harm than good. And I would love to outline the following ways my point below. Just as my first speaker said, corruption can be one of the reasons why financial aid should not be increased. Up on external financial support, it can stimulate their own economic development and initiative. This can create a culture of dependency where individuals rely heavily on external financial support rather than developing their own economic capabilities. My president of Rwanda said, and I quote, the problem of aid is that it often creates dependency rather than self-sufficiency, and this can hinder their ability to become sufficient at a long run. For instance, African countries have been receiving financial aid for decades, yet they still fail to achieve economic growth and development. Mr. Moyo, a champion economist, said, and I quote, the aid industry has failed Africa. It is time to try something different. However, some nations tie their financial aid to specific conditions. Take an instance of the situation of China's increased financial aid to Nigeria, which is creating a modern-day colonial relationship where Nigerian resources and stability are compromised for China's strategic interests. This is what I refer to as neo-colonialism. China's condition that will Nigerian policy autonomy in areas such as labor or technology. China's Exim Bank provided a 652 million naira loan for the Lekki Deep Sea Port project. But guess what? The Chinese firm also executed that same project. Nigeria's debt with China exceeds over 20 billion naira, with Nigeria exporting raw material and importing back manufactured goods. Let us not forget that failure to pay those debt would lead to asset seizures and exchange over the Nigerian economic policy. Lord Bremer said, and I quote, "Aid is not a solution to poverty, it is only a symptom of it." In a nutshell, while the intent behind increased financial aid is undoubtedly noble, it has caused more dangers to capital development. A critical examination reveals drawback, the potential for corruption, the risk of dependency, a one that prioritizes robust government, sustainable economic development, and the empowerment of developing nations to chart their own path is needed, not perpetual charity. If aid alone were the solution to the underdeveloped nations, then nations like A.L.T or the Democratic Republic of Congo would have tried a long time ago. Yet, despite the billions, poverty persists. Why? Because development can never be outsourced. Chidia Kuwite said, and I quote, "More aid is not the answer to African problems." Increased financial aid can be a barrier to progress, but it can never, I repeat, it can never be a bridge to progress.
When nations work together, great things can happen. When they work together with trust and respect, greatness is inevitable. My name is Odini. I'm standing on the existing protocol. I am here to support nations which state should develop nations increase financial aid to underdeveloped nations. As our first speaker said, it's a resounding yes. Take for example South Korea. After the Korean War between the year 1950 and 1960, South Korea was extremely poor, underdeveloped, unstable, and not stuck on how heavy reliant they were on foreign aid. Luckily, the U.S. gave South Korea a significant amount of increase of financial aid, support for education, infrastructure, and industrial growth. Today, South Korea is one of the most developed nations of the world, and it is the world's largest economy. I tell you, without the increase of financial aid by the U.S. to South Korea, it wouldn't be where it is today. Further buttressing my point, Taylor once said, and I quote, "Alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much." Singapore gained independence in the year 1965. It faced high challenges like high unemployment, poverty, limited infrastructure, and underdevelopment. I tell you that the U.S. and Japan played a significant role in Singapore's development. The government led by Lee Kuan Yew implemented pro-business strategies, invested in education, and attracted more increase of foreign aid to itself. Today, Singapore is one of the wealthiest nations of the world, known for its business-friendly environment, advanced infrastructure, and unlimited infrastructure. In the year 1970 and 1980, China faced high economic troubles like high inflation and debt. However, it benefited a lot from developed countries, impacting it with high increase of financial rates. Today, China is considered one of the most stable and prosperous nations in South America. Without the increase of foreign aid from US and Japan and developed nations to these nations, you wouldn't be hearing them today. Probably they would have gone extinct. Now, the white man once said, "Alone we are a small spark, but together we are a fire." A lot of things have been going on about World War III. Take for example, the US and Russia in a war, and no other nation is developed enough to help them. They will both be stranded at one point or the other. Both other nations are developed as a result of increase in financial aid. They will both have nations on their side and will both have a probability to be. Now, global stability. When nations are developed as a result of increase in financial aid, there will be global stability, security, no fuel conflicts, and most importantly, world peace. Now, less immigration and less emigration. When nations are developed as a result of increase in financial aid, citizens will be comfortable in their own nation because there will be development in their nation with the use of those financial aid. When they are comfortable in their nation, they will not go running to other nations for comfort, but they will be comfortable in their own nation. Now, sharing of ideas. When nations are developed as a result of increase in financial aid, and increase in financial aid are given from one nation to an underdeveloped nation, ideas are shared between them. Take for example, and for a fact, the US has more tech and tools, while maybe say Mali has more manpower and labor force. When there is an increase in financial aid from US to Mali, there will be ideas shared between them, and when ideas are shared between them, there will be a trade by barter system, and both nations and the world at large will be benefited. And talk about unemployment. When there is an increase in financial aid from developed nations to underdeveloped nations, there will be high development like infrastructure. The more infrastructure, the more employment, and the more employment, better employment. Now let me tell you, but it all starts with me and you. Now talk about historical responsibility. Developed nations have a historical responsibility of assisting the underdeveloped nations with increase in financial aid, having often contributed to their underdevelopedness through colonialism, exploitation, and unequal trade purchases. I mean, it's the least they could do. They are taking so much from us. Now, if I might be thinking, did the US ever benefit from increase in financial aid, being ranked the worst power today? I put it to you that yes, they did. Thank you very much.
Good day, everybody in the audience. With all protocols duly observed, my name is Lawrence Ogunumba, and I'm here to give a rational, sensible, and logical opposition to the question: should developed nations increase financial aid to underdeveloped nations? Firstly, let's look at the sincere truth about this. For years, we've been naming developed nations: America, China, United Kingdom, Germany. We've never called Nigeria, even though in 1979, Nigeria was picked as one of the greatest nations aimed at going towards development. We were compared to China at that time. Nigeria was compared to China at that time in terms of development. But here we are today. Yes, both of them received financial aid at that point. But China had the sense to be able to say, no, there's a limit to this. But Nigeria, we are selling every single thing, including garbage. Here we are today. Let me tell you one of the problems that led to this. Firstly, mismanagement of funds. When this financial aid actually gets into these nations. Now, if you look at newly independent nations, countries like Syria that is just recovering from war, when you pump in too much financial aid into these countries, that's where the problem starts from. Not the financial aid itself, but the increase in this financial aid. Syria now, maybe with its new government, you may be able to handle about $1.2 billion or thereabouts. But when you choose to increase it, that's why we get problems. Because the civil service is not advanced enough to handle all this money, giving loopholes to my next point, which is corruption. Yes, my opponents here, they talk about corruption. They agree with me that corruption might be one of the problems. But there are other ways to address it. We have to start somewhere. That's why we're starting with the financial aid. We have to start somewhere. Now, this corruption, in cases where the government of the day might not be as corrupt as the government of yesterday, this can lead to other problems in the sense of citizens, the government misplacing their priorities. Yes, when the government sees the citizens as its number one priority, but the government has to find a way to support its economy. When he looks within and he finds out that the money is generated internally is not enough to actually push this project forward, he seeks for an increase in the amount of money he's receiving from outside the country. That's where the problem starts from. That increase, that's where the problem starts from. Because when the government now, for example Nigeria, we're receiving about $1.2 billion annually from the United States alone. Imagine now, we start requesting for an increase up to 3.2 and so on. Now the government will sit down, the government of the day will sit down in a round table and be like, wait, we have a problem here. Our citizens are not giving us at least as much money as the people outside. That's when the government begin to misplace their priorities, begin to focus on the foreign donors rather than its own citizens. Now, this leads me to my next point. What about when this money now, when it enters the country, it doesn't cost all these things, okay? The next thing that we're going to look at is economic instability. When Nigeria's economy has been complaining for years, our economy has been doing itself like this. Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been saying it. He has been saying it. Our president, I believe in that man so much. He has been saying it now. He has been saying it. That one of the problems that will be happening, he's been saying it since he came to office. That our economy has been funded by money that is not our own. This leads to problems where our money now, the money entering into the country, does not meet up with our GDP, our gross domestic product, the amount of goods we are generating per year, does not meet up with our foreign exchange reserves. Because this financial year, we don't come in our own currency. No, just as the timing of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. We have $1 selling at 100 naira, true or false. But here we are now. Although yes, the price might have increased, but there's one problem we need to look at. When we have an increase in the value of the nation's currency, this brings about a decrease in the cost for imports, making it cheaper to import goods rather than exporting goods.
Thank you. Hey everybody, I come back again to rebuke whatever my opponent has said. Yes, okay, increase the financial aid can lead to corruption and other issues. But let me ask you this question. When underdeveloped nations do not receive an increase of financial aid, they can only do little or nothing, my dear. They can do little or just nothing. They can't do anything. And I've said again, and I will still repeat itself, and I will still repeat again, when developing nation prospers, the whole world prospers in tandem. What have we said? There is no other system dynamic. Are we fighting? That is it. And again, a question again, I said that when others increase financial aid from developed nations and underdeveloped nations, the wealth gap can close. Then you will not be seeing fighting and mass migration because it will be a serious problem for each and every nation here. Now let me ask again, can there be world peace when some nations are rich while others are left struggling? Can they? My opponents, can they? They cannot be. It can never be because there will be mass migration from one nation to another. In practically with the undeveloped nation. Now, to top it all off, I favor Adenuga and my team. We still stand firm, refusing to be swayed away because big talks and big meetings are not enough. Listen to me. Big talks and big meetings are not enough for a world that is hungry for change. Thank you very much.
I'm back here again. And please, I'd like to throw a question to my opponent. Please, did you guys actually read and study for this debate? But the notion is increase in that financial aid. Now let me get you prepared. Your second speaker, he was mainly focusing on health facilities from this financial aid. Or they should have been increase in this financial aid. How come that these developed nations that are collecting, these developed nations giving us this financial aid, and we are underdeveloped? You said the financial aid is for our health facilities. How come there are still reports of pregnant women giving birth in the dark? How come there are still reports of people dying from lack of facilities in a nation? Now, your debate, your first speaker said that free loans, right? That financial aid is free. And I put it to you now that all financial aid is not free. Because, take for instance, I have something someone needs and I help the person, I borrow the person. Am I not helping the person? That's an aid.
Thank you.
Your third speaker, in her opening remarks, she gave a quote with trust and respect. I noted that word with trust and respect. Do you think that these nations giving us financial aid, do you think they are giving us for our benefits? Because there's a saying that goes that the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Am I correct? You said trust and respect. Do you know whether the intentions of these people, of these developed nations, their intentions are not with trust and respect? I'm going to point you wrong there. Their intentions are not with trust and respect. Because I will put it to you that everybody wants to be on top. Would you like to be on the ground? My opponent, would you like to be on the ground? I'm shooting.
Thank you all for the warm reception. Thank you to the teachers. You all are raising wonderful aids. Thank you to the children. You all are awesome. And I must say that I'm impressed. My director has already said everything that was in my heart. I mean, I'm surprised I was thrown off balance by the level of intelligence and brilliance that I saw here. Give yourself a round of applause. So I would like to also encourage you all, like when Erica has said, keep it up. Read more, do more research, think deeply. The difference between the rich person and the poor person is that the rich person thinks. Okay? So when a challenge faces you, what do? Instead of running around or maybe giving up, start thinking. In the process of thinking, solutions will come, okay? So both teams did exceptionally well, but as we know, this is a competition, and in every competition there must be a leader. I don't want to say loser. We are all winners. So with an average point of 225, give it up for the opposing team. Thank you. The winners there. Congratulations.
Continue that message. Odini, are you sisters?
Yeah, twins.
Please give them a big hand.